place, it is not only a good idea, it's absolutely essential. Because otherwise, you're going to have your hands into fish, and you're going to be going out and opening a drawer or doing something, or going into a cabinet, and you're really going to have a big mess on your hands. So be sure you take everything out that it says in the recipe before you get started. I'm going to take this off because you're going to see how we're going to prepare this fish. And I think it really is an unusual idea. And that's why you'll see that it's not going to be smelly and it's not going to take up any room. We're going to wrap it in plastic. We're going to measure this, and use your ruler. It's always a good idea. Measure this to 19 inches across. 12 and 7 is 19. Take one piece and put it down. Then take another piece that's just about the same size and put that next to it. Overlap it a little bit. See, look at this. Overlap this a little bit. Now then, when you take your fish and put it on here, we're going to measure this fish so that we're going to make a roll of about 8 inches by 3 inches. And you'll see that that's going to be a very good size. And if you have problems getting the right size, then just dampen your hands with a little water, with a little extra water, or just use the plastic wrap. You'll see that that in itself will get it. And take your ruler, 8 by 3, and that will just work out. We're going to roll this up, and we're going to tie the ends. Now take, and do this before, because otherwise I told you you're going to have a mess. Take 4 pieces of string and have them all tied and ready for you. Just cut them and have them ready. Tie one end, and when you tie the other end, kind of smush it a little bit so that you're sure you've got any air pockets out, and turn it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to take another piece of plastic wrap, and this time turn this so that the seam side is under it. You see, this time when we put it on, we're going to turn the seam side down and roll it, but do not do anything. Just roll it this time. And take another piece. This time put it down and take this with the seam side down and roll it. And do that one more time. Now then, we'll tie it. And we're going to put it in a pot of simmering water. And you can use, I'm using a poaching pot here, but you can use any kind of a deep skillet that you have, or a pot would be fine. And just turn this and be sure that you tie it good, because you're going to cook this on a simmer for about 20 minutes. Turn it over and do it for another 20 minutes. And that time it should be done. If you can kind of tell by looking at it, because the color's going to turn. It's going to turn to more of a white color. You'll see that when it's done. But I have found in making this that that's about the amount of time that it takes. So we just take it, put it right into our simmering water for 20 minutes, turn it for another 20 minutes, and when it comes out, look at how lovely it looks. It's wonderful to serve. This would be on a buffet table, or you can serve it individually as an appetizer. And of course, we would always serve it with a little horseradish, and it is traditional always to serve this with a little carrots. We always serve gefilte fish with carrots, a gefilte fish roll.
For a copy of Enie's recipes, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Enie's Kitchen in care of WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. That's Enie's Kitchen, WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Please include the show number with your recipe request.
through the Taste of Today cookbook. That's a wonderful book by Brandeis Women's Organizations. I found an interesting dish that I think would be very nice with our gefilte fish roll. It's called a blintz bake. Actually, you do not use the pre-cooked blintzes in this. You make the whole thing. You make a batter, then a filling, and cover it with the batter and bake it. And it's really interesting and it's delicious. I think first we'll do the filling. Now the filling starts out with 8 ounces of cream cheese. And when you do that, be sure that you always cut it up into pieces. And we'll add to that 1/4 cup of sugar and blend that together. And now we're going to add, a cheese that I really love is ricotta. It has such a good flavor. This is 1.5 pounds of ricotta cheese. And add this into your filling, which is going to give it a very nice. Now we're going to add 2 eggs, and of course we're going to check them. We're going to add 1 egg at a time and pulse it just a little bit to get it in. And now our other egg. And beat that one in. Now then, to give this a little flavor, we're going to add 2 things. First of all, I have the juice of a whole lemon. And please use a real lemon. It just takes a moment, and it really gives it so much better flavor. So we're going to add, this is 1 lemon. And here I have a teaspoon of vanilla, which will give it a nice flavor. And here's the other 1/2 teaspoon. And just a little salt. It's about a pinch of salt, just to add into it. Now we'll let that set for 1 minute while we make the batter. And the batter is kind of interesting, because here's what you do. First of all, we're going to melt 1/2 cup of butter. That's 2 sticks. And put that into, and I think I better use a large bowl for this. We'll put it in here. This is 2 sticks of butter. That's a whole cup. And we're going to add to that 1/4 cup of sugar. And blend that in easily. Now we have 1 cup of flour that we're going to add into that. And here we have a teaspoon of vanilla and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Oh, it's interesting, and I couldn't believe this recipe, but I tried it a few times, and it really is correct. It takes 3 teaspoons of baking powder. So add that in to your dough. And here we have 1/4 cup of milk. And it takes about a 1/2 cup of flour is what this is going to need. Here we are. Now then, we're going to pour this into our favorite pan. What is the best pan to use? It's our wonderful 9x13 pan. It's the one that we depend upon all the time, and I think it really works out the best. Here we have a 9x13 pan, and put 1/2 of the batter in here. And you'll see that it's a very, very light batter. If you have a problem getting it in here, although it should go in easily, if it doesn't smooth out easily, what I do is take a little flour with my hands and try to smooth it down so that you can get just 1/2 of the batter. That's really all you want in here on the bottom layer. Then we're going to add our whole filling. And this cheese filling is just wonderful. It really has a good flavor to it. Put your cheese on the top of it, and this is really the middle layer. And it will give it a very, very good flavor. Of course, this is a kind of a dish that you want to serve with a fish dinner or a fish dessert or a buffet. It would be very nice. So put that in the middle, and then top it with the rest of your batter. And here's the rest of our batter, which should go over very easily. And if you have a nice soft spatula, it will just smooth over. And to top it off, and you know how I am about cinnamon, that's my most favorite thing to work with. We'll just take a little cinnamon and sugar, and I keep this put together. It's so easy that way. And just top it with cinnamon and sugar. Bake this for an hour in a 300 oven. That's a low oven, but I found that it does work the best in that. 300 oven for 1 hour. And when it comes out, it's going to look like this. Here is our Blintz bake. And of course, I think we always want to have some kind of a salad, a nice salad with it, something that's fresh. And here we have a lovely fresh salad. And what we're going to do here is mix together in our lovely dish, and take a glass dish. But be sure if you use glass, now you're not going to use your good silvered things on it because that's going to mark the sides. So we have a glass dish, and we're going to mix together bean sprouts. They're wonderful and they're fresh. Just rinse them out. I have about a ½ pound, and I'm going to add on there, no, I think this is a pound. This is a pound of bean sprouts, and on the top of that, I'm going to put a whole red pepper. Look at how good that's going to look. And green onions. That gives it such a wonderful flavor. And I like to cut them up just kind of bite size. And then for our dressing, we're going to take, let me put this over here so that I can get the cucumbers that are going to go on the top. And the dressing is going to be a mixture, and here I have it made. I just want to show you how I made it. It's 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, it's 2 tablespoons of wine vinegar, and it's 3 tablespoons of oil. And I have that all mixed together, and we're going to pour it over the top. But first, take your cucumbers and score them. Just score them down like this and slice them right in. Slice them right into your, I don't have a good knife here, but if you just slice them right in, you'll see that this will give this a nice feeling. And take your wonderful dressing, and this is a very good dressing, pour it over it at the last minute. Don't put your dressing on this until the very end, because it is kind of a heavy dressing, and I think that that will set up better. So try this delicious Blintz bake, and here is our salad.
For a copy of Enie's recipes, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Enie's Kitchen in care of WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. That's Enie's Kitchen, WJUF, 1 South Franklin Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60606. Please include the show number with your recipe request.
As an accompaniment to our lovely Ladies' Own dinner, I thought maybe just a nice cherry bread, which I found in the Jubilee cookbook, sounded wonderful. And it even has with it a cherry butter to serve it with. So let's try that. Now we're going to make it, and of course this is going to be simple again because we're going to do it in the food processor. Jack said to me the other day, that's really revolutionized your whole cooking. I said, you're right. From 5 bowls and all kinds of things to 1 bowl, this really is a cinch. So we're going to start out with our dry ingredients. First I have 2½ cups of flour, and I'm going to add to that 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then I have a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. And here is some wonderful, oh, well, you know how I am in cinnamon. Here's a teaspoon of cinnamon, but here's another spice that's delicious. 1/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice gives it a very, very nice flavor. So here are our dry ingredients. And then we're going to start out by putting in a ½ cup of butter into our food processor. And you know, you should always cut it up into a couple of pieces when you do that. And when we add butter, we're going to add sugar with it. So here we have a cup of brown sugar. And that should always be firmly packed when you put it into your measuring cup, because brown sugar measures better that way. Now then, we're going to combine together, and this is what's going to give it some wonderful flavor, is 3/4 of a cup of sour cream that we'll put into a bowl because we're going to mix this together with some orange juice. I have, and this is a fresh orange that I've used with this too. This is 1/4 of a cup of orange juice. And just to be sure that we get enough of an orange flavor, we're going to take an orange. Oh, this is a wonderful one. Has a nice rind on it. And and add the rind into the sour cream and to the orange juice. And be sure you only get the top. Don't go too deeply down because then that gets bitter. Just take it from the top and add that right in so that we have enough of the orange rind with it, and add that together. And alternately, we will add this into our combination. Then I'm going to open up a 16-ounce can of dark sweet cherries, and please remember that they're pitted. Pour that in, and in 1 second they'll pulse and right in. You'll see how fast they go in. And it only takes 1 egg. This is a nice part about this bread. You'll see that. It just has this 1 egg. We'll check it. It's fine. And we will add that right in to our dough, which is getting to be a very, very nice dough. You can see it right away. We'll put this on the side so that we can see how nicely our dough is coming along. So now alternately, I'm going to add 1/2 of our dry ingredients and pulse that for a moment. And then 1/2 of our other ingredients. This is our sour cream mixed with the orange juice and the orange rind. And then add the remainder. When it says to add alternately, it doesn't mean that you have to do 1 drop and 1 drop. You can more or less do it in thirds or in halves. That's absolutely fine. And then the remainder of our sour cream and orange juice combination. And take that dough and pour it into a 9x5 loaf pan. Oh, here, if you like, and this is strictly optional, my boys do not like nuts, period. But if you like nuts, here I have 1/2 cup of nuts. So pour that into a 9x5 loaf pan. And I have it sprayed, so it's all ready to go. And then what we're going to do for the sauce, and this is really wonderful, this is an orange butter, and I'll tell you how we make it. First of all, we can do it right in the food processor. I'll show you exactly how it's made. First of all, we have the rest of the cherries. You see, we used 1 cup of the cherries. So use the other 1/2 cup of the cherries, brown sugar, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and 1/2 cup of butter. Mix that together, and you get this wonderful cherry butter that you'll use right on your bread. So we'll take our bread and our butter and put it right over here with the rest of the things. And talking about a wedding, I have to tell you about a kittle. Have you ever heard of a kittle? You probably have heard of it and didn't know what it was. It is a white gown. Yes, it's always white. And the rabbi, in Orthodox weddings, sometimes in conservative, sometimes in Reformed, the rabbi will always wear a kittle. It's made out of linen or silk. It always has a belt. And sometimes it is even very fancy. I have to show you one. When I borrowed this from the rabbi, he was telling me about a lady in California who makes them. And I wrote to her, and she will make it any way that you like. These are just lovely, and she will design them or put heavy embroidery on it. And the kittle is also worn on Yom Kippur, because that is a passage of time in Jewish life. It is a day of atonement when we think about life was beautiful last year, and we are here this year, and we look forward to next year. So that the kittle is worn again on Yom Kippur. Many times the groom wears it at the wedding. The rabbi will always wear it. And sometimes it's even worn at a Seder, because at a Seder, again, we are talking about a passage of time. When the Jewish people came from slavery to freedom, to stand up and to always remember that moment, to always remember how important freedom is to us. And so the rabbi and perhaps the groom will always wear this, and then it is also a sign of mortality because it is a shroud. So life and death and beauty and happiness and sadness are all an intricate part of life. And when you see a kiddo, I think that you will remember that moment. And I think you're going to see more and more of them, because I have seen boys and even women on Yom Kippur, how beautiful it is to walk into the sanctuary and see the men and sometimes the women standing on the bima, that's the pulpit of the congregation, holding the Torahs and walking around to usher in the beauty and the whiteness and the purity of life. I hope you remember that, and perhaps you will cook this marvelous dinner that we made today. Our gefilte fish roll, which I think is really smashing, easy to make and just delicious. And here's our blintz bake that is wonderful and will slice very easily, set up like that. And here's our marvelous salad. And here is our cherry cake with the cherry butter. Shalom.